Today, we're diving into a fundamental aspect of gym training, the art of increasing load over time. You see, as our muscles grow, so should the challenge we throw at them. It's all about progressive overload, a key principle in effective training. But the thing is, you may be having a hard time deciding when to up the ante. So let's explore the science behind when and how to crank up the weight in the gym. By the end of this video, you will be well equipped with some practical tips on how you can maximize hypertrophy training. Now, let's cut to the chase. When it comes to hypertrophy, that's muscle growth for the uninitiated. The relationship with load might not be what you expect. Take a look at this study. It shows that, surprisingly, muscle growth can be achieved across a spectrum of different loads. Whether it's light, moderate, or heavy, the gains remain consistent. A meta-analysis delved into the impact of load on hypertrophy, categorizing them into light, which is 15 plus rep max, moderate, 8 to 15 rep max, and heavy at max or heavier. The verdict? No significant difference in muscle growth between these load categories. So, what's the sweet spot? Let's bring in some more research. In a meta-analysis of 34 studies published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, it was discovered that moderate repetition ranges at 6 to 12 reps per set were most effective for muscle hypertrophy compared to both high and low repetition ranges. But if the load is not the deciding factor, then what is? It's pretty much more about the effective hypertrophy rep range. But the thing is, progressive overload is still the name of the game. Using the same weights forever won't cut it. Progressive overload. This is ultimately one of the key players in transforming your body. With progressive overload, you can make sure that you don't plateau prematurely. Contrary to popular belief, progressive overload is not just about adding more plates to the bar. It's a strategic, gradual exercise in resistance that keeps your muscles on their toes. Think about your goal. You probably want sculpted arms like these, with toned, strong legs and a pumped, broad chest. But the question is, how do you achieve this continual growth? A study shook up the traditional approach. This study investigated the effects of 2 resistance training programs over an 8-week period in individuals with at least 1 year of lower body resistance training experience. The first program focused on increasing load while maintaining a constant repetition range, while the second program aimed to increase repetitions while keeping the load constant. And in the end, no notable differences were observed in other outcomes, including muscle thickness, endurance, counter-movement jump, body fat, and leg segmental lean mass. Both groups experienced similar muscle thickness gains in calves and quadriceps. So, the key takeaway here is that what matters most is pushing those sets close to failure within the effective hypertrophy rep range. But let's shed something to light here. Progressive overload isn't a forceful intervention. It's a natural byproduct of muscle growth. And the ability to lift more weight is the proof in the pudding. But always keep in mind that there's no one-size-fits-all plan for load progression. The rate at which you advance is a multifaceted dance, influenced by factors like training experience, genetics, diet, sleep, and stress levels. So, instead of a rigid roadmap, embrace the natural flow of your fitness journey. Track your rep performance, listen to your body, and when the stars align, that's when you make the move. Now, let's talk shop about the factors that pull the strings on the load you hoist. It's not just about tossing on more weight blindly. There's a science to it. First up on our list, lifting technique. Ever heard of the phrase mind-muscle connection? It's not just gym lingo. It's the reality when you want to build muscle. When you're chasing hypertrophy, it's about stressing specific muscle groups, not impressing with sheer weight. Strict technique ensures that your target muscle is the star of the show. A perfect example would be a controlled eccentric tempo, ensuring your muscles actively work against gravity. No bouncing, no shortcuts. It's about maximizing that muscle stress for optimal growth. Take a look at this. This study looked into advanced techniques for muscle growth in resistance training, RT, compared to the usual methods. They found that certain advanced techniques, like combining exercises and controlling the speed of movements, can be more time efficient than traditional approaches. If you're focusing on lifting heavier weights, emphasizing the lowering phase of the lift, eccentric loading, might be beneficial. For creating metabolic stress, methods like drop sets and using lower weights with restricted blood flow could be efficient. If you're a well-trained athlete, incorporating some of these advanced techniques might help you overcome plateaus and keep your workouts interesting. The key takeaway is that lifting techniques play a significant role in how effective your training is, especially when aiming for muscle growth. Speaking of growth, let's chat about rest periods. Short or long, both have their merits. Here's a study that sought to find out the impact of short and long rest intervals between sets in resistance training, aiming to shed light on their influence on muscle growth. Through a systematic search of various databases, 6 studies meeting specific criteria were analyzed. What's intriguing is that the evidence suggests both short and long rest intervals can contribute to muscle hypertrophy gains. Notably, when examining trained individuals with measures sensitive to muscle changes, there's a hint that longer rest intervals might offer an advantage. This emphasizes the importance of carefully considering rest periods in your resistance training routine. In the world of muscle development, it appears that the length of time you take between sets can significantly affect your results. So, as a practical tip, aim for the sweet spot, around 1 to 3 minutes between sets. Efficient and effective. When to increase load? The first cue to consider for load progression is exceeding the target rep range. Surpassing the upper limit signals potential adaptability. For instance, if aiming for 8 to 12 reps and consistently achieving more than 12 with good form, it might be time to contemplate a load increment. This doesn't mean abandoning effective technique, but rather adapting to your evolving strength and endurance. Another facet in deciding when to increase load involves paying heed to sensory indicators during your workouts. Embrace the cues from your mind-muscle connection, the stretch under load, muscle pump, and post-exercise soreness. These sensations serve as valuable feedback, helping you gauge the efficacy of your current load. If these indicators suggest a positive response, it could be an opportune moment to experience with a heavier load for subsequent sets. So, we've laid the groundwork for a smart, effective progression, but what about scenarios on when not to increase load? First thing to consider is technique. Prioritize lifting technique over load increments. If your current technique is not optimized for maximal muscle engagement, pushing for heavier loads might compromise the effectiveness of your training. Enhance your technique first to ensure targeted muscle stress and minimize undue strain on joints. Second, joint pain. The moment you feel any pain or discomfort, that's already a red flag. Lifting heavier loads, especially when accompanied by joint pain, demands caution. Excessive stress on joints and connective tissues can lead to irritation and potential long-term injuries. If you notice persistent joint discomfort, it's advisable to refrain from increasing the load. Instead, consider maintaining or even decreasing the load temporarily to safeguard joint health while still achieving effective hypertrophy through proximity to failure. The goal is to challenge your muscles, but be alert when it already raises signals. Listen to your body and prioritize sustainable, effective training practices. Over time, the load we use in the gym should gradually increase as a result of muscle growth, a fundamental aspect of implementing the progressive overload principle. When considering how to increase the load, it's crucial to make gradual jumps over time, emphasizing the smallest increments suitable for each exercise. Firstly, the gradual progression ensures that the load adjustments align with your true rate of progression. As muscle growth typically doesn't occur at an extremely rapid rate, making smaller increments helps maintain proper form and technique, reducing the risk for sacrificing these for the sake of going heavier. Secondly, minimizing the risk of joint pain is a key consideration. Studies have indicated that abrupt spikes in workload are a significant predictor of injury risk, emphasizing the importance of a gradual approach to load progression. When increasing load, it's also worth considering whether to apply the increase across all sets or selectively for specified sets. This decision can be influenced by factors such as the comfort level with the new load or the desired training effect. For barbell lifts, making gradual jumps might involve adding the smallest available plates, while for dumbbells, moving up to the next available weight may be appropriate. In cable and machine exercises, going up by 1 pin on the stack could represent a gradual increase. Additionally, the decision to increase load may vary depending on individual goals. In the context of hypertrophy training, the focus is on gradually and sustainably challenging the muscles. However, in strength training, the goal is to lift the maximum weight possible within the constraints of proper technique and safety. In summary, when contemplating load increases, here are a few things you should consider. 1. Prioritize gradual jumps to accommodate your true rate of progression. 2. Be mindful of the potential risk of joint pain associated with sudden changes in workload. 3. Consider whether to apply load increases uniformly across all sets or selectively for specified sets. 4. Tailor load progression to align with your specific training goals, whether hypertrophy or strength-focused. Now, with everything discussed, here's a rundown on how you can improve training for hypertrophy. Stick to the range from 5 to 20 reps. That's where the magic happens for your muscles. The key? Get close to failure in each set. No need to stress out about a strict plan. Muscle growth has its own rhythm, and predicting it is like guessing the next cool move in your workout. Pay attention to how you lift. Technique matters more than just lifting heavy. Take a breather between sets. It's all about finding that balance. Slow and steady wins the muscle race. Gradual increases in weight are like leveling up in a game. It's not just about adding weight, it's about getting smarter with each lift. Remember, these are more like friendly tips rather than strict rules. When considering an increase in load, listen to your body. Exceeding your target reps? Go for it. But if technique wavers or joints protest, stick to the familiar weight.